blah 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 blah. Hello everybody and welcome to I'll Tell You What TV. I'm doing a short US Grand Prix predictions video here for the US Grand Prix weekend that's coming up. Apologies for not doing a live podcast this week. That's mainly due to me having been ill. But we will be back for a live podcast on Tuesday the 24th of October from 8 PM. You can join us on our YouTube channel for that. But yeah, we are going to do a quick predictions video, although we have just recorded half of it and then I realised my microphone wasn't recording. So apologies for that. It does mean we may miss out on a few things. Maybe I'll have to put that part of the recording on at the end of this so people can see what really happened and how much James is going to change his predictions. So obviously, yeah, I've got Steve and James here with me. We're going to go through a few predictions for this weekend's Grand Prix. Starting off with, who do we think is going to take pole position?
Steve, I'll let you go first, because I've got no clue.
I reckon Bottas.
I reckon
Hamilton.
Really? That's a surprise.
Well, I think Hamilton might slip up or get grid penalties. So I'm still going to back the Mercs for being the fastest cars. So I'm going to go Bottas.
Well, it's interesting you say that because during FP2
I said it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. During FP2 today, if you didn't get to see it, guys, did either of you get to see FP1 or FP2?
No, not at all.
You liar. I know you've seen FP1 because you just told us that. Hey James, what did you tell us when I asked you if you'd seen FP1 or FP2?
Yeah, I turned the TV on and 1 minute left. So I didn't really get to see much other than the front end of Lewis Hamilton or Bottas's wing. And then, I've come in, but all I saw were Hamilton were quickest. I saw a replay of a Ferrari sliding off. I don't know who that was. And, it looks to me like I don't really have a clue, which is weird. Normally I like to be all top trumped on me F1 stuff, and this weekend's the first time I don't have a clue.
Okay. Well, I mean, Steve's mentioned that he thinks Bottas might get pole because you never know. He thinks Hamilton might get grid penalties, and if you didn't know, guys, during FP2, Hamilton did mention that he suffered with D-rate loss of power again during FP2, so you never know, something might need changing on there. But come on, James, I'm going to need a name for you for your prediction for pole position.
Pole position, it's got to be Romain Grosjean.
Okay.
That's never happening. I mean, how on earth can you pick a horse to be on pole?
It's an American team. It's an American team at an American circuit. And as you can tell from Donald Trump, everything about America's great.
Oh, dear.
If you're right about that, I want some of the royalties.
Yeah.
The only way Haas could win the World Championship is if they had Scott Speed driving for him.
Oh, I don't know. He's raced before. He wasn't very good. Oh dear. And if anyone wants to know why I'm laughing, I will put the video clip that we recorded, or the audio clip that I recorded prior to this, and you'll see why that was funny with James saying about Grosjean. But that's going to be locked in now, James. You're gone with Grosjean. You're going to be scoring no points from
confident.
the polls prediction. Confident.
I'm confident he's wrong as well.
I'm confident, yeah. We will have to do this on a point scoring basis, you know. And I will mention, I did mention it on our pre-recorded as well, our rehearsal I'm going to call it now, that Romain Grosjean has got speech bubbles on his helmet now that says I'm not moaning, and Steve went on saying something else. I'll let you listen to that at the end, folks.
Oh, Dave, just before we carry on with these predictions, quick question for you.
Oh, go
on. Predictions from last week. I'm pretty sure you were pretty wrong, weren't you?
Oh, I was very wrong.
Are we going to recap what they are in a moment after we've done the predictions for these?
No. We don't have to recap the last race's predictions. No. I'm doing it in a new style, so everything's null and void. Okay, my prediction for pole position, I'm going to go with Hamilton. He's strong in America. He always has been. I think he's going to do extremely well. So yeah, Hamilton on pole position for me. Okay, on to race winner then. Who do you think is going to take the victory?
James, any idea?
Well, I think it can only be Kevin Magnussen.
Well,
Because-
I'll tell you what, James. I think
You know how he's going to do it?
there's going to be 19 other non-finishers.
He's going to T-bone them all at turn 1 and then get his wing replaced, and every time somebody comes near him, parts of his front wing that fell off the first time, he'll have collected them in his cockpit. And when people turn up behind him, he'll just start throwing them backwards into like radiators and stuff, and just shouting, "Suck my balls."
Well,
I've heard that Mario Kart are inventing a new character called
It's
called a
all
Magnussen.
part of the new Liberty Media excitement. Drivers are now able to take spanners and hammers and stuff and keep them in the cockpit for just such an occasion.
do you remember those old? You know, our
Wacky
kid,
Ray.
you know, our kids nowadays, they're playing with fidget spinners.
Yeah.
Well, when we were younger, the annoying toy of our time was clackers.
I thought you were going to say the whippet.
No. I don't know if you guys will remember them. Do you remember what clackers were?
I know what clackers are. I mean, I used to use the old clackers. Yours were plastic
Where
with
you had
rigid
Were
plastic.
they around in the 90s?
Yeah. It was
Well,
like the
We
original.
were in the around in the 80s.
Yeah, the
It was
original.
I remember flashing yo-yos.
Oh bloody hell, yeah! Well, flashing yo-yos kind of took over from the original version. Was basically a piece of string with two wooden balls on, like a wooden ball on either end, and you held the string in the middle, and you shook your hand up and down so that the balls would swing up, hit each other, swing down, hit each other, and make a clacking sound. But then in the 90s, they turned them into like rigid plastic with a handle, and you'd use them then. Very painful if you used them wrong as well. How I got? Oh, that's
In what way would you be using them?
well, no comment. They do look a little bit too much like anal beads for my liking. But no, I was going to say that maybe the drivers could stock up on those and throw them at each other.
Or anal beads?
Yeah, maybe that's what Magnussen meant by "suck my balls."
Used ones.
Flashing dildos and stuff.
Glow in the dark for the night race.
Yeah. Well, you never know, do you?
Oh,
You never
my
know
God.
what situation you're going to be in.
I
There's
kn-
nothing worse than being in the pitch black and not knowing where you're going.
It's when you're in the pitch black and all of a sudden you hear bzzz, and you just go, I am awake, you know. I can't believe
Wrong
though,
hole.
I can't believe though that me not recording my microphone has created this diversion of conversation to this much of an extent. Okay, so James has said Magnussen, but he said Hamilton, then changed his mind to Max Verstappen. So come on, James, realistically, are you sticking with Verstappen?
Realistically, I think it's either Verstappen or Hamilton. I think they're the best currently. With the exception from Alonso, I think Verstappen for me is a way better driver than Sebastian Vettel. Even though Vettel and Hamilton are in the title fight, I think it's between Vettel and Verstappen, no matter where they are placed on the grid.
Okay, good stuff. And Verstappen has just signed a year extension on his contract with Red Bull. Interesting news.
Three year
No, he's
to 2020,
no,
hasn't it?
No, his contract is already in place, right, which covers him for the next year or two. He's signed an additional year extension. So he's not signed a new 3-year deal. His current deal is still in place. He's signed a 1-year extension on it. So, up yours.
Nico Rosberg showed last year, contracts are worth absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
I remember that really cheesy video that went viral of him and Toto scribbling on a piece of paper, high-fiving each other, and then speaking in German, and then 5 minutes later, scribbling on another piece of paper, high-fiving each other and congratulating each other in English.
Yeah.
That was just a purely cheeseball move.
Yeah. I mean, they talked about it today during the practice sessions. There is no such thing as a long-term contract because every driver has a way to get out of any contract. So, to a degree, the contracts are pointless. Okay, Steve, come on then. Give us who you think is going to win the race.
Well, I think Vettel could actually win all of the races that are left in this season. But I'm saying that hoping that he does, but he still doesn't win the title. So that Hamilton wins it, even though Vettel can do nothing about it.
Yeah, well, I'm going with Hamilton for the race win, but I don't know why, I've got a feeling that something's going to happen to him, but I'm going to go for Hamilton anyway. If he outscores Vettel by 16 points, title's over. So it could be won this weekend, which would be...
What happens?
What position would Vettel have to finish in for Hamilton to win the title?
Well, 25 for first, so Hamilton would have to finish first. With Vettel 25, 18, 15...
Fourth or lower,
12, I heard. Lower than fifth, he'd have to finish.
Lower than fifth, or if Hamilton finishes second and Vettel not finishing, that's still the title done.
Pretty much, yeah. So
if both drivers fail to finish, then is that also Hamilton's then?
No, because if Bottas wins, he's still in the fight. If Hamilton outscores Bottas by 3 points, Bottas is out of the fight. If Hamilton outscores Vettel by 16 points, it's title done.
Okay.
So yeah, in many ways, I don't want Hamilton to win so that it can continue on. But at the same time, maybe Ferrari need that pressure taken off them so that they can just go and race. Okay, on to some slightly more obscure predictions for you, and we're now to the point where we hadn't been recording previously, so these guys know nothing about these questions I'm about to get them to give a prediction on. Okay guys, Carlos Sainz versus Hulkenberg, who finishes higher?
I think the question there's got to be who's going to finish, because Hulkenberg's not been finishing recently, and neither's been Carlos Sainz. So who's going to get the furthest in the race? And I think it's most likely going to be Hulkenberg. I reckon both of them won't finish, but Hulkenberg will get further into the race.
So you think Hulkenberg will beat Sainz effectively?
On distance driven.
Okay. James?
I think them two matched up together will show how, especially compared to Palmer, what the second car's capable of. And I can see possibly them both knowing, we've got to work on this car and make it better, but I think egos might get the better of them. And possibly we could see a bit of a spat even in the final four races between the two of them.
Ooh. Ooh. So fireworks predicted, but who do you think is going to beat who?
I think due to Hulkenberg's look, I will probably, with his experience in the car, I'd probably say Hulkenberg to come out on top. But with the luck he's been having, well, especially at the last race, if somebody's going near his rear wing and giving it a good old thump, I'd say that probably Carlos Sainz is going to come away. But in my heart of hearts, I'm going to go with Hulkenberg just because he's my boy.
Okay. I've already written down all of my predictions. I wrote mine down earlier, and I went with Carlos Sainz, right? After I wrote it down, I found out an interesting piece of information which is going to piss both of you off, and that is that Hulkenberg's got a 20-place grid drop. So good luck with that one, guys. So you both picked Hulkenberg. But if Sainz doesn't get very far into the race, you never know.
I did say, though, that they both probably wouldn't finish the race.
True.
So,
I mean, they were talking today, though, that Sainz looks like he's up to pace straight away. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the race. is, definitely. Okay, then on to the next predictions. Brendan Hartley versus Danny Kvyat. Who beats who?
Danny Kvyat beats Brendan Hartley, but Danny Kvyat still loses his drive. I think it'll only be by a little bit, and that'll be what sway the axe over Kvyat's head. Because really, Kvyat, yeah, he's been out of the car a couple of weeks, but Kvyat's got way more experience, and he should be at least 30 seconds in front of him going over the finish line at the end of the race, at least. Okay. And I reckon it'll be a lot closer than that.
Okay.
Well, I think President Putin has already hit the detonation button on that Russian torpedo. So I can't see Kvyat getting to the end of the race at all. Now, as far as Hartley, I think if he finishes the race, he's done his job as far as I'm concerned. Because you look at what Gasly's been doing, he's not been in the points in the 2 races that he's taken part in. And as far as Hartley if he can just do what Gasly's been doing, which is get the car as far as it can through the Grand Prix, cross the finish line if he can. If it's in the points or not, it's irrelevant. He's done what's expected of him.
So your prediction is Hartley will beat Kvyat then?
No, without a doubt.
Okay. Well, I've chosen Hartley as well, but I mean, to be fair, he's a driver I don't really know anything about. But he has been having a few problems, I do know, with like his helmet lifting up and stuff like that, but minor things that will get sorted out. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a Le Mans winner, so he knows how to drive.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard about his helmet is obviously he's not used to racing in single seaters. Hasn't been in them for quite a fair few numbers of years. So he started off using his helmet that he uses from in Le Mans cars, but it doesn't have the same wind deflectors on top of the helmet. So the helmet's not being pushed down onto his head when it's being driven into the wind, obviously, which happens as soon as you start moving forwards, you're going into the wind. But so wind's getting underneath his helmet and started trying to rip it off his head, basically. So, it needs to be looked at, that's for sure.
Definitely. Now, something I could perhaps blow your mind with a little bit, and neither of you have seen FP2, so you might not know about this, right? So
FP2 spoiler if you're not.
Yeah, FP2 spoiler.
Seen it.
Okay, right, guys. Danny Kvyat is obviously returning back into the Toro Rosso car. Would you say that he returns to his own engine allocation or not?
See, I kind of twigged on this the other day and was thinking that Brendan Hartley, he's got massive grid penalties being handed to him from that chassis, from that car. But that's the one that Kvyat was originally in. So it should be. See, someone agrees with me.
Yep.
It should be Kvyat that's getting all those grid penalties.
Yeah, it should, but it isn't. And James, do you know anything about this, or is this new info to you?
New info to me,
right.
But it sounds like...
Okay, I'll try and explain it to you the best way I can, and we'll see what your reaction to it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Pierre Gasly replaced Danny Kvyat. Pierre Gasly took over Danny Kvyat's engine allocation. Brendan Hartley has taken over from Pierre Gasly, therefore taking over Pierre Gasly's engine allocation, which was Danny Kvyat's engine allocation. Danny Kvyat is actually replacing Carlos Sainz's Carlos Sainz, taking his engine allocation, which doesn't give him the grid penalties, but Brendan Hartley gets all the grid penalties applied to Pierre Gasly's car, which is a knock-on effect from it being Danny Kvyat's car. So Kvyat's back in Sainz's car, Hartley's in Gasly's car, which used to be Kvyat's car, and when Gasly returns, because this is what's going to happen, Gasly is going to return, there's potential for Gasly to return into the car that Danny Kvyat's going to drive. So Gasly could replace Kvyat, meaning that Gasly wouldn't get penalties in that car either. And then either Hartley or Kvyat could drive the other car.
I'm lost. Can you repeat that?
No, it's fucked up though. It is fucked up, and they've been going through the rules on it, right? It looks like Toro Rosso have done it to try and work out a way of getting the least not penalty, but least effect from the grid drops. So having the grid drops land on Brendan Hartley isn't necessarily as bad as it potentially landed on Danny Kvyat. Danny Kvyat may have more chance of scoring points anyway. But it's all a mess and it's all confusing. I mean, personally, it should be, well, I suppose it is. You've got chassis 1 and chassis 2, whoever drives it, there's penalties applied, but you'd then have teams swapping drivers into the cars and what have you. But yeah, all a bit of a mess, and I'm sure it won't end here in America. Okay, so me and Steve have gone for Hartley beating Kvyat, and James has gone for Kvyat beating Hartley, although Hartley does have lots of grid drops. Okay, talking about grid drops, the next one for you guys to have a guess on is, put a prediction on is, how many grid drop places is Alonso going to get this weekend?
Hopefully none, but it's probably going to end up being 175 or something stupid.
Yeah, I heard though that Honda won't bothering doing any upgrades, so I don't see what would be the point in if Honda won't bothered about doing any upgrades. I can't see there being any penalties. I mean, I understand it's a bag of bolts and a bag of shite.
If it falls apart though, you have to repair it and replace it. That gives them the grid penalties. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's upgraded. It just means that the places have been replaced, parts have been replaced. But what I'd heard was that certain parts of the Honda power unit, which was already agreed with McLaren that were going to be upgraded by certain racers throughout the year, those that were already confirmed to McLaren were still going to be upgraded.
Yeah.
There would be no further upgrades that were not already announced.
So there'd be no upgrades beyond the upgrades that were confirmed as upgrades before they confirmed they were no longer supply engines to the team.
Correct.
That got so many penalties for having too many upgrades. It's all a fucking mess, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was thinking this today when I was watching the practice, with the grid penalties and the Toro. I'm thinking, this is just fucking stupid now. This really is stupid. When you've got to spend half an hour explaining something and people still don't know, it's fucking stupid.
But don't you think that this all reverts back to the beginning of this podcast? And you're going to say, Jean Todt, what is he doing?
Well, I can tell you something.
I'll tell you what he's doing. He's listening to this podcast.
Well, I can tell you something as well in a moment, but I'll get to it in a moment. I'll get James's prediction for this, and my prediction for this. So I'm going to cough. So come on then, James. How many places do you think Alonso is going to have applied to him as a grid drop penalty for this weekend?
50.
50. Interesting. I've gone for 25, which means that he's going to end up getting none. But having said that, it looked like he weren't going to get any at the last race, and he was still punted with a load on the Saturday. Okay, what I was going to tell you is Pat Simmons, who's been working with Sky a lot, he's part of the group that has been put together to put together the rules for the rule regulation change. And a big part of that being the engine. And he was talking on Sky today, and he was saying, we are looking at changing the regulations that will bring down cost, will increase reliability, is going to basically piss off quite a few teams, but will be a hell of a lot better for the sport. And it was quite an interesting interview, actually. And if anyone's seen on Facebook or YouTube, the bit where Martin Brundle is talking to Christian Horner, and he says, that's the most sensible thing I've heard a team principal ever say. That he said that in reaction to what Christian Horner said, in reaction to what Pat Simmons said. Because Pat Simmons had said what he did, said that some team bosses aren't going to like it, but it's better for the sport. And Christian Horner responded with, was asked, well, what will your stance be if you don't like the rules? He says, well, we'll be in the situation where even if it does piss us off a bit, we didn't say that, but even if it does annoy us or we don't like the rules a bit, we have to take the stance of looking at it as, is this better for the sport? Because if it's better for the sport, it doesn't matter if we don't like it or not. We'll deal with it and we'll get on with it. At the end of the day, they'll turn up with the regulations and an application form, and they'll go, here are the regulations. You either fill in the application form to join, or you go and join Formula E. So that's what Christian Horner said in response to it, and I think that's kind of the right attitude to have, that yeah, some teams might not like the regulation change, but if it brings down these massive costs, then it's going to be a hell of a lot better for the sport. Okay, last one to get your predictions on. Whether it will get confirmed over this weekend or not, I doubt it. It may be at the next race. Because I know Williams have said that they want to make their announcement before the Brazilian Grand Prix, right? As to whether Massa is going to be staying or not. Because if he's not staying, they want him to have another send-off in Brazil. So they want to have it dealt with by the time they get
Not
there.
again.
Yeah.
No, not crying while you have it there.
They should deliberately wait till after Brazil, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah, they could have done. But, I mean, to be fair, that was one of the most beautiful moments in Formula One, and I would have no problem seeing a similar thing. But my question to you guys to get your prediction on, and this will be your final answer. If Massa goes, who's in the car? Is it Kubica or is it Di Resta?
I've got a feeling it's going to be Kubica, but that's my gut feeling. But I'd prefer to see Di Resta in it. That's my heart and my gut saying two different things to me.
Well, usually your gut smells, so are you going to go with your heart?
No, I'm going to sit on the fence.
Well, I'm writing down Kubica because that was the first answer you gave. So Steve's going for Kubica then. So you have to be picky with your predictions here. Apologies, my throat's killing me. So James, who do you think is going to get into that seat?
Neither of them.
Oh.
I think Di Resta will probably stay on. I think if it were between the two, I'd probably say Di Resta over Kubica, because circuits like Monaco, I can't see Kubica doing it.
Just
if he does it.
Hang on a second, James. Steve, either your microphone is up your nose or the dog is sniffing the microphone.
Oh,
Neither.
Sorry, no. Sorry, Doggy. Sorry. He's asleep.
Oh.
I put him asleep.
Well done. Sorry to interrupt you there.
So yeah, I'd probably say out of the two, I'd probably say Di Resta is gonna, because at the end of the day, if Kubica was still the driver he was in 2008, then in 2009, he would have been signed up by Renault. Now Renault clearly went with Sainz and clearly believe that Sainz is a better driver than Kubica. Di Resta, I see him as good as he is. He comes across as a bit of a steady Eddie rather than a exciting, flamboyant driver. Which, on one hand, is great in terms of getting the points in, but having that little bit of killer instinct, maybe Vettel's got a bit too much of that. I think that's what he slightly lacks. I mean, we've not really seen Di Resta go, for a proper fight, even at his time with Force India. He's been pretty much doing what Hülkenberg's been doing this year. Is there's no point in fighting faster cars. the only way I'm going to beat faster cars is if they have reliability issues. So
Yeah.
don't bother fighting them. Fight anybody anybody behind Red Bull, and oh, there's the horse. I was driving earlier, and somebody walked out in front of me. I put my hands up, and I did that noise, and I just burst out laughing. So yeah, the rest is a bit of a steady Eddie. Kubica, as good as he is, he can't be as good as he was. No matter how. I mean, this week I've been thinking, what the hell's up my shoulder? It's just because I haven't been on my Project Cars game in about a week. I went back on it after a week, and I felt like my arms were killing.
Yeah.
Now, that's just a little game. This is a Formula 1 car.
Yeah.
Bombing round circuits, not only doing a race distance, you've got practice 1, practice 2, practice 3, qualifying, which probably doesn't take that much out of you, apart from you've got to be on the limit, and then a full-on Grand Prix. I think by time it gets to round 3, by the time it gets to the race, around 3, Kubica will be knackered.
Yeah.
Because one arm's going to be doing all the work, and the other arm's just there to hang on to the wheel.
I mean, you guys might remember that a couple of seasons ago in the online racing leagues that we were doing, I was trying to fight for a championship, but I had a problem in my shoulder where I couldn't move my arm, and I was pretty much driving one-handed, and it was almost impossible to do. So I can imagine what it'd be like with his injury. I mean, I've kind of gone down a similar sort of thought process. I mean, everyone who is listening to our podcast knows that I'm a big fan of Di Resta. And I'd like to see him in that seat, but it's also that thing of, if Kubica was capable, I think he'd be in the Renault. Excuse me. So for me, I'm picking Di Resta to end up taking that seat. I can't see Williams keeping Massa again.
No.
I think that time has now come. But yeah, I could see Di Resta getting in there, and it'd be interesting to see how he gets on.
Can either of you think of another driver out of not the current F1 grid that probably is as quick as Kubica was? That's not on the grid.
No.
Nobody out there. There's no driver that's like jumping up and down, going up.
Not unless you look at someone like Nigel Mansell, but then you're looking at different eras.
No.
But if you're looking at the same era, even if you were to say
No.
drivers like Anthony Davidson, he was never on the same pace as Kubica.
Yeah.
Even if you were to think of some of the old Red Bull drivers that have come and gone.
They're not. They were never.
They're not there.
They were never future world champions like Kubica was.
They never had the potential. Never looked like they had the potential to. I mean, if they weren't at Red Bull or Toro Rosso, you would not have seen them go into a Ferrari or a Mercedes or a McLaren. I mean, the only other person you could potentially say is, or you could bring Jenson Button back for another season, but that's all it would be. Another season. It'd be one season. So they might as well keep Massa for that. What they need is someone like a Di Resta or maybe Kubica that can come in and do 2-3 seasons.
Yeah.
So that they can steady the ship for a number of seasons. Whereas I don't think there is another driver like that out there at the moment. Because if there was, let's be honest, if there was, they'd be in the Red Bull.
Or they'd be.
Sorry, in the Toro Rosso. They'd be in the Toro Rosso instead of Brendan Hartley.
I mean, or for any other driver, they'd be in contention. They'd be at these tests. I mean, I know with Button, with all of the media stuff that's come out lately, along with his book release, is a lot of it's been why I left F1. And one of the things that he said was, I took someone's great advice and put it into effect, which was you don't leave Formula One until your heart's not in it anymore. And when you get to that point where your heart's not in it anymore and you don't want to do it anymore, you give it one more year to find out for sure. That's what I did, and I found out for sure. I don't think he's got any interest in coming back. As excited as he gets, I don't think he's got that in him to want to come back and do it. But I mean, actually thinking about it, no, I have just thought of someone. Rosberg,
so did I.
Nico Rosberg.
Yeah, crossed my mind instantly then.
Did he not used to race for Williams?
Yeah. He did. But if he's made his decision not to race in Formula One, he's not going to race in Formula One.
But the reason why he didn't want to be in Formula One in the Mercedes-Benz is because he couldn't deal with the pressure of having to win a world title. If he then went back to Williams, he isn't going to have to deal with any pressure. But he comes with a bit of gravitas that I'm a world champion.
Former world champion, yeah.
There's no pressure on me in any way. All I'm there for is to develop that Williams to be almost a world championship winning car. Ooh. And if it does get to a position where, it becomes an absolute world beater, then I'm in a position to then probably fight for a title. But the likelihood of that happening is a lot lower. And I believe the pressure cooker of Mercedes-Benz with Lewis Hamilton will be nowhere near his radar, and he could probably enjoy being a Formula 1 driver.
You know what, James? That's an interesting call. We'll have to see if that's going to come to fruition, because he's probably one of the only drivers as well that if you're at Williams, you wouldn't have to sit there and go, let's evaluate him. You don't need to.
Yeah.
You've just watched him.
You've watched him against Lewis Hamilton. You've seen drafting. Yeah. He's 99% as good as Lewis Hamilton. But if you're offered a driver that's 99% as good as Lewis Hamilton, you'd snap his arm off.
Too right. We'll have to wait and see if that's going to happen. In typical fashion, guys, a conversation that I was thinking, it only takes about 10 minutes. It's taken us 35 minutes so far. So I'm going to wrap it up in a moment, but seeing as we've done a little bit of predictions and there's a few sort of surprises in there as well, especially with James and the Rosberg theory, I like that. It's an interesting one. It's kind of like something unexpected out of the shadows, and perhaps something you might not expect the team to do, but you never know they could. So going on that kind of logic, I've got a bit of a scenario to not propose to you, but just to put to you to see your opinions on it. It's nothing to do with Formula One though. And it's this: would you ever let a friend pick a tattoo for you while you don't get to see it and you don't get to see it applied on you? So basically, you'd be blindfolded when they pick it, and blindfolded when it's done, and you don't get to see it till it's finished. Would you ever dare put yourself in that position?
No.
Why not?
I know you two, you'd get like a picture of a horse's head and get it tattooed on my back so I can't see it.
The thing is, you say the horse's head, is that because of the noise you make?
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing is about that, when you first made that noise and Steve mentioned it, I said to Steve after we went off air and you went off, I said to Steve, I says, you're a bastard, you are. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, because you've mentioned it, now, every time he makes that noise, that's what he'll think. He'll go, fucking hell, horse. Because that's what happened with me. Steve said to me, do you realise how much you say I'll tell you what? I was like, no. And then he told me, and then it's apparent every single time. So is it apparent, James, every time you make that noise?
Well, now it is. It's like I say, even just driving in the car. Oh, God, I've woke Buggy up. Oh, God. Oh, no, he's gone away. Yeah, but, when I'm driving in car and I do it, it's weird how you do stuff subconsciously, don't even realise you're doing it, and then you actually go, oh.
Yeah.
But as well, I know you said you're going to wrap up, but I've got a little story for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to
that
in a moment.
be for this final 5 minutes.
Okay. Right. So you're saying that you wouldn't let somebody blindly pick a tattoo for you?
No.
Steve, what about you?
Depends if I could have some off-limit areas that the tattoo couldn't be put.
Oh, I think genitalia would be off.
No. The thing is, I wouldn't. I'm not bothered about that because people don't genuinely see that area.
Oh,
I want about my face and my hands and my arms.
Fair enough. So you would, as long as you could pick some no-go areas.
But I would only do it if I could return the favour and pick a tattoo for the person that's picking one for me.
Interesting. You see, now, there's absolutely no way in a million years I'd let anyone pick a tattoo for me, right? But apparently, there's a TV show out there where people do this, right? And I am now going to send a picture to Steve and James to get their reaction. So a guy is on this show and somebody has picked a tattoo for him and he doesn't get to see it at all until it's finished and he gets to go and look in the mirror. So I'm now about to send this to Steve and James. And I shall wait a moment for their reaction. And I'll also try and show it on the screen when this is when I edit this together.
That must have tickled like buggery when he was doing that tattoo.
What's good? Oh, right. I was wondering why it was so dark in the centre.
Well, have you worked out what part of the body that is tattooed on?
That's his belly button.
Yeah, I worked that out. But now I'm more worried why he's got hair like Amy Winehouse. That beehive look.
Well, I'm concerned that it's a guy that's been tattooed onto him there.
Yeah, just imagine being a woman looking at that.
Well, and that is the reason why I would never let a friend pick a tattoo for me.
Talking about programs, have either of you seen that one Naked Attraction or something like that?
I have seen momentarily while flicking through the chat. It's where they get people to stand there naked, and you pick who you want to date on their nakedness.
Right, there were one where me and Vicky were watching, and we were in hysterics. Right, she went with this bloke who, from the neck down, he looked like Daniel Craig. You know, sort of every woman's, well, not every woman, but most women's fantasy, you know what I mean? Like big pecs, big arms, not a lot of fat on him, but decent sized bloke, right? And downstairs package were all right. And then it were a toss up between two blokes, right? And one was
wrong choice of words.
One was like a really tanned old man, and the other one were, like I say, this like muscle man. And the top half came up and it showed the faces. And fuck me, you've never seen anything as ugly in your life. Like, it had the body, like I say, it had the body of Daniel Craig, but the face of fucking it looked like
someone off the Undateables.
Do you remember that boxer? He were a big Russian bloke with a massive head.
Value.
He looked like basically like that face of Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? Ooh. And then there was this old bloke who looked right smart, right tanned, probably were fairly wealthy from amount of tan. Either that or he'd just gone for a fit tan before he got on. But yeah. But he looked like a bit of a silver fox. Like, he could have a bit of money. Not saying that that's what all women are after, but she goes with this absolute mong, right? She goes with the one that looks like Hunchback on Notre Dame, and they go out for this meal, and it was just classic. You were like, "Oh, so how's your day been?" And they were like, all right. and then it cut about 5 minutes later, and then she was going, "There's not a lot going on there, is there? I can't seem to get much out of him." And then it cut to him, and he went, "It's a great night." And I just thought to myself, you could clearly see that coming, and I think that's why I know that people say you shouldn't judge a book by the cover, but I think you can tell a lot by somebody's face what they're like. And I'm not meaning to be like offensive in any way, but the writing's on the wall if you look like your face has already been run over by a car. But yeah, where were I going with this?
I've no idea. we're waiting for you. I mean, to be fair, the only ones. I mean, I said I saw it when flicking through. The reason it got my attention is because it was two naked women stood on the screen. I was like, what on earth is this? And it was
that
it was
the
the
on TV in the 90s.
Oh no! This was recently. And basically it was the lesbian version. So
what channel was that on?
I've no idea.
What day was that? What time was that?
Can I get it on catch up?
I don't know. Possibly. I never researched it. I never looked. I was just surprised that there was two.
Start researching now.
Yeah, I was just surprised that there was two naked women. Well, actually, there was three naked women, and one woman who was dressed, who obviously was the host, and sort of going, right, which one of them are you going to pick? And she stands there giving it. Well, both of them have got really pretty faces, and I was like, well, one's a bit prettier than the other. And then she goes, now her boobs are really nice and really big, but they were the ones on the not so pretty face. And then she was like, her boobs are quite nice as well. And I'm not put off that one's bigger than the other. That's natural. And basically just went down the bodies of these two women, analysed them while they were both stood there naked. And I was like, okay. And then it finished and it said, right, after the breaks we'll get on to the blokes. I was like, right, change channel now.
Thing is, I mean, how shallow have you got to be if you're going to pick somebody just on their nakedness?
I don't think it's necessarily to do with shallowness, though, on that.
Oh, come on, right? If you're stood there and you've got...
It's not... no, you're seeing it as you're picking them on their body. That, from what I could gather, isn't the process of it. It's more a case of strip away everything, right, and you see the person as a whole. So it doesn't matter if, like... for example, this girl who picked one of the women, she didn't pick the one with the more attractive body. She picked the one with the lesser attractive body, but a personality that she felt suited her. It was stripping away everything so that the
how does she know what the
embarrassment
personality is?
Because they spend time on the show getting to know each other.
Okay, how do they narrow them down to that point? I mean, surely they've said no to some of the other
I don't know. I didn't watch it. Like I say, I only got to that bit, but it's not a case of like, oh, they got a fit body, yeah, pick them. Or maybe part of that is in there. But from what I gathered, it was more a case of, like, for example, the girl who didn't get picked, they were talking to her afterwards, and she was talking about how shy she is about her body, but doing something where she was exposed like that has helped her with her own confidence. So it's not I don't think it's a shallowness thing. Admittedly, if I was on it, or you were on it, or if James was on it, it would be shallow. Because we would be very potentially much like, yeah, big boobs, nice arse, she'll do. Hair can cover the face.
Yeah.
So I can say that, I'm single.
Guys.
You're cutting out, James. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I've just been bothered. Vicky's just got home and told me off because all I've done is Hoover House.
You've not put tuna in the fridge?
No.
Into fridge? No.
I thought that'd be a good job doing that, but anyway. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. But I think, like I say, I think you can tell a lot by somebody's face.
Yes, that you can. Which is not good when all three of our faces are plastered on the screen. Right, okay. Seeing as James has just got a telling off and we've gone on a lot longer than I was expecting, I reckon we sort of come to wrap this up. We've got our predictions in. We'll see how we get on when we do our live podcast post the US Grand Prix this weekend. So... yeah, make sure you come and join us for that. Anything else you want to quickly add, guys?
I was going to mention my story, but I think I'll save it because it is a cracker. I'll save that for Tuesday, and that can be a bit of a teaser.
Yes.
And let's just say it did involve a dream, and me almost shitting myself, but not literally. But
Okay, I'm going to make a note of this. James's shit himself dream. Okay, we'll touch on that. Bad choice. We'll touch on that on Tuesday. So, thanks for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe, and come and check us out on our live podcast on Tuesday at 8 p.m. See you later.
Bye.
yeah,
Blah 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 blah.
I haven't. I've just realised it's on when it's finished. Turn on the TV. 1 minute to go. I thought, oh no.
I have seen FP1. I know that FP2 was on, but I was spending time with the family, so I haven't seen FP2.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Hamilton's just gone quickest, hasn't he, in practice 2. I'm just watching him now, kissing somebody on TV. I think he's probably gonna get pole and the win, but I don't think he's going to win the title this weekend.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few grid penalties out there, so I'm actually going to go for a bit of a Bottas for pole position. I'm just thinking that maybe Hamilton might end up getting a grid penalty for change of engine or gearbox. It's about time he had something new changed on his car. Yes.
Yeah, like I say, I think I'm still going to stick with Hamilton, just because he's dominant round here. Oh shit! Oh buggy! Oh no! I've just picked up.
Has he done one?
Just picked up my cup of tea, and Buggy just ran into me, and I've just spilt it all over. Maybe that's an omen. I don't know. Right, in that case, I'll take Buggy's advice and I'll probably go away. Max Verstappen. It'll be dead slow on that straight, but the rest of the circuit it'll be blisteringly quick.
Now, James probably doesn't know what I know, and that is there's a possibility that Max might be getting grid penalties, and quite large ones as well from what I've heard, to do with engine and gearbox. Okay. Well, it's the American Grand Prix. You've got to back an American car, so I reckon either one of the Haas drivers. It should say, suck my balls. No, I'm sorry, that's Magnussen, isn't it? Oh, yeah. I wonder if they'll change what it says in the speech bubble between each session to like a different moan. Yeah. But it's interesting what Grosjean has said this earlier on today, which is Gene Haas is the best person he's worked under in a race team, and I'm wondering if he said that.
My microphone has not been recording at all.
Oh.
Blah 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 blah.